Well, it's good to be here in Worcester today. This is the 28th march we've had in towns and cities across England in the last 2 years to march against this crazy, cruel badger cull. But this is a really critical one here because this is one of the tightest marginal seats in the election on the 7th of May. It's only 1,300 votes in this seat, so it could be swung on the badger cull alone. The Tory party could lose this seat to Labour. And interestingly enough, the party that wins this seat over the last 40 years has always gone on to form the government. So here we are in a very marginal seat where there's a lot of anger about badger culling. We'll be marching through the town today, making our voice heard, making our concerns heard to the public here in Worcester, but also sending a very strong message to all the political parties that badger culling is wrong. It's failed on cost grounds, £15 million taxpayers' money wasted. Failed scientifically, it's not reduced bovine TB at all, and it's been extremely cruel. Many of these badgers that don't have any disease at all have taken 10 or 15 minutes to die of multiple gunshot wounds. Lots of anger, lots of opposition to the policy. People are pleased that Labour have committed to stop it, really angry that the Tories want to continue with it, and Liberals seem to be happy to do so as well. And they'll be putting that message across to the public here in Worcester today.
Bye.
Oh, that's a good one, isn't it? I like that.
But I want to start by saying that I really don't want to be here today. I really don't want to be here today because the fact that I am means that we are still talking about badger culling. There is still a chance that the cull may begin again, and that's almost unbearable for anybody that campaigned against it for the last 2 years. We're here because we don't want it, and we're not going to vote for it. Now, badgers are supposed to be a protected species. They're one of our most secretive mammals, and a lot of people who are campaigning never even seen one. Fortunately, I get to see one every night. Anybody that follows me on Facebook knows that, and knows that I have a nightly soap opera going on in my garden, and I'm lucky enough to be good friends with the badger. But a lot of people never get to see them. They are very secretive, and they live in very ancient areas of our countryside that are constantly under threat from developers, from farmers, from other parties who just like to kill and damage for the hell of it. I want to read you a poem, and it was actually written just over 100 years ago. And I think if we could write a poem now, in 2015, it would sound exactly the same. So this is The Coombe by Edward Thomas. The coombe was ever dark, ancient and dark. Its mouth stopped with bramble, thorn and briar, and no one scrambles over the sliding chalk by beech and yew and perishing juniper, down the half precipices of its sides with roots and rabbit holes for steps. The sun of winter, the moon of summer, and all the singing birds, except the missel thrush that loves juniper, are quite shut out. But far more ancient and dark, the coombe looks since they killed the badger there, dug him out and gave him to the hounds. That most ancient Britain of English beasts. Thank you.
What we now know to be in excess of 400 sets. We started off the cull very naively, thinking we had to keep an eye on about 25 sets. There are hundreds. Every single set in the zone we need to keep an eye on. We were out every night, right through the first year, right through the second year, and didn't we do a fantastic job? Yeah! 274 badgers killed. They were supposed to kill 615. I want to pay tribute to the SABs. I want to pay tribute to the set sitters, to all those people who came out in the field. And this is an interesting thing poem that I'm going to read you now from a book that was written by a master of foxhounds in the 40s, I believe. And he's talking about the future of hunting. He said, this is David Brock, funnily enough, Brock, yeah. It is at present believed that this infection, by which he means bovine tuberculosis, can be carried on the boots of human beings and on the feet of animals. What more likely than it will be carried from an infected farm to a pure one by hounds and horses? It must be anticipated that in the fairly near future, a certain number of farmers will, in the interest of their businesses, feel bound to close their farms to hounds. This was written 70 years ago. So why, in this so-called emergency within the Gloucestershire Culls, and I'm sure it's the same in Somerset, is this being allowed, not because it's of any import to agriculture, but for sport? Something that's been banned by law as well. So I'll leave you with that to have a think about. I would also just like to say as well, today is World Day for Animals in Laboratories, sorry, and there are people at Ledbury at Sequani, so if people wish to go there afterwards, that might be quite a good thing to show them some solidarity. Okay, thank you.
Please remember that after May the 7th, hopefully, we're not going to be having a cull this summer. If it does go ahead, we're going to be needing as many people as we can. It probably won't only be in Gloucestershire and Somerset. It could well be in Dorset and in Cornwall as well. So it's going to be thin on the ground unless we start recruiting people. Let's see what happens on May the 7th. After May the 7th, and the cull is cancelled, don't think it's all over. There's over 2,000 badgers that are killed every month. That's more than in the actual cull, are killed every month throughout the United Kingdom. We need everybody to join their local badger groups. We need everybody out there checking their own local area. You'd be absolutely amazed the wildlife crime you find just going out in your own neighbourhood. I know I'm preaching to the converted here. It's out there in the high street we really want to make this point, because you all know the implications. Most of you have been out there, most of you have looked at sets, and you realise, as Lynn's just said, what the hunting is doing to them when they put the terriers down there. We've had a case in this last fortnight in the Midlands where in a park, in an urban area, where the sets has been blocked, and the police think it's all connected to dogfighting. And it all involves money again, it all involves betting. And we know what they don't just put them in there, you know what they do to the badgers. Then they cut the muscles on the back of the head so they can't lift their heads. That is going on in Birmingham all the time. That's what we're up against. The cull may be over on May the 7th, but there'll still be over 2,000 badgers every month that are being persecuted.
Stop the cull! Stop the cull! Stop the cull! Stop the cull!
Save our badgers! Save our badgers!
Volume on full, here we go. Worcester has a really proud history of standing up for wild animals. It was here that Mike Foster was elected as MP for Worcester and asked the people of Worcester what they wanted him to take through Parliament. And the result of that was the end of fox hunting. And the hunting was stopped. But now the Tories want government to repeal the ban and allow fox hunting once more. And Robin Walker, who's the Tory MP for Worcester, not only supports fox hunting, but is bringing in hunt members to help with his campaign, particularly the Ledbury Hunt, who want to be able to hunt foxes down again. Friends, we cannot let the Tories win in Worcester. The Labour Party opposes the badger culls and will end them. We are absolutely clear about that. There's no doubt that bovine TB is a scourge on our countryside. It does devastate livelihoods and communities. But killing badgers isn't the answer, and Labour will end the culls.
Hooray!
The last Labour government did much to end the cruel and unnecessary suffering of animals. We banned fur farming, we ended cosmetic testing on animals, and we introduced the Animal Welfare Act in 2006, as well as banning hunting with dogs. But there's still much to do, and protecting animals is at the heart of our plans for government in the general election on the 7th of May, less than 2 weeks away now. So for the sake of the animals, if nothing else, we need a Labour government. And the only way to see badger culls and fox hunting, badger culls ended and fox hunting remain illegal is to vote Labour in Worcester. So please, if you can, give me your support on the 7th of May. Thank you.
Now, none of us would have any doubt here today that the badger cull has failed on scientific grounds, on humaneness grounds, and on cost grounds. This government, over the last 2 years of culling, has spent £15 million of taxpayers' money to kill just under 2,500 badgers in the most cruel way possible. That's over £6,000 per badger. Most of those animals, probably 90% plus of them, had no TB or disease whatsoever. They were shot by multiple gunshot wounds, dragged themselves away to die of organ failure and blood loss in the most horrific circumstances. And we as a nation have risen up in opposition. When I say risen up, we really have. The Badger Army is a caring, compassionate army that's taken to 28 cities and towns across England in the last 2 years, in the biggest wildlife campaign of its kind anywhere in Europe. And the way that's happened shows that we're caring, shows that we won't remain silent, shows that we will be vigilant, we will speak out, we will take to the fields, we will take to the streets, and we will fight cruelty where we find it. We are going to be back in the High Court after the election, fighting to get information about who's actually paid for this cull. And I can assure you it's the taxpayer, but the government is trying to hide that evidence. We will keep fighting. We will not stop. And we will make sure that when we look back in history, when we look back at this terrible badger cull, people will say that we didn't sit down silently and let it happen. We stood up, we were counted, we made our voices heard, we showed the world that we're a caring, compassionate society and that we will stand up for wildlife. Thank you very much.
Save our badgers! 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 Save our badgers!